It's my pleasure to be joined by Matt Vasgersian, Bay Area treasure, play-by-play announcer for the Los Angeles Angels. And obviously, whoa, what a wild game yesterday, Matt. Who lost the game? Did the Angels lose it twice and the Giants lost it once? How did that thing go?
I don't know. I mean, really, if I know people in the Bay Area haven't watched a lot of Angels games other than the matchups with the A's and Giants, but boy, that we've seen that movie too many times with the Angels, where you plug away, take a lead to the late innings, and then somehow it goes south, and that's kind of what happened last night. I'm not on that series, but I do, still stay tuned into what they do when I'm not working, and that was a tough one to stomach. And it's when a losing streak in the throes of a pennant race gets into the 4, 5, 6, 7 as it is for the Angels now, you're starting to run out of canvas. So hopefully they can turn things around here soon.
Yeah, Matt, obviously the injury to Mike Trout, one of the best players to ever play the game, doesn't help the situation. But just big picture, what has gone wrong for the Angels? They came out and said, we're not trading Ohtani, we're going to go all in. And they've gone all nothing ever since they said that. Yeah,
they tried. I'm telling you, usually the Executive of the Year award does not go to a team that doesn't go very far into the postseason and almost never goes to a team's executive that doesn't get to the postseason. But, I mean, Perry Manassian's going to die trying. He has engineered so many smaller level deals that make good baseball sense that just haven't worked. I mean, Lucas Giolito pitches tonight. It's his Angels Stadium debut after being acquired. He's had 2 road starts, the last of which was disastrous in Atlanta. He got 0 swings and misses on his fastball. He threw 12 fastballs and did not get a single swing and miss. Not a good sign. But the deals have been sound. Bullpen problems have been an issue, and has been the case for the past few years. Bench depth. Now this year they were ready for it. They went out and signed a bunch of veteran role players. Knowing that Anthony Rendon gets hurt frequently, knowing that, you've got some older players around the diamond. But even those guys got hurt. I mean, the loss of Gio Urshela was catastrophic. And at the time, I think people that are following the Angels closely knew that was a big deal. You don't think of losing a player like that as being such a hurtful thing. But he could play both corners, play both spots up the middle, hit with runners in scoring position. They've tried to replace him, and it's been a struggle. I mean, bad luck, health, bad bullpen problems, and it's been one of those years.
Matt Vasgersian here on 95.7 The Game. The big topic here, as it is in the Southland, as it is across Major League Baseball, is Shohei Ohtani, and he did it again at the bat yesterday, last night, and I know he's going to start on Wednesday. What is the prognosis in terms of Angels fans and keeping Shohei Ohtani?
Well, they're hopeful that the atmosphere that's been created for him will play when he's making his decision at season's end as to where he wants to go. I do think this. It's going to be a West Coast destination. If you ask me, that's a personal opinion. I'm not saying that with any insight. I just think between the Angels, the Dodgers, the Giants, the Mariners, and even the Padres, the right answer is somewhere there. People in Anaheim, people in Southern California, Angels fans, that is, are hopeful that he stays put. It's going to take a pricely sum to keep him. Everybody's aware of that. What he brings in as far as additional revenue from Japanese advertisers, the eyeballs he puts on your brand, all these are reasons, by the way, and part of the calculus why the team decided not to trade him at the deadline. On that day, they were only 3 games out of the final wildcard spot. Why wouldn't you keep him and push and build around him? And they did. It just hasn't worked. And one of the things that I tell people who think they're, GMs and, they should have traded him for prospects. All right, well, you could say that, but think about this. In addition to the fact that there were only 3 out at the deadline, everything he accomplishes from here on out, and there are going to be more things in the next 2 months that he does that make our jaws drop. He's doing it in an Angels uniform with an Angels logo on, and there is value in that. The permanent record is going to reflect these 3 monster seasons that this generational talent has had in that particular uniform. So the idea that you could trade him and make a Herschel Walker deal, a 9-for-1, a 5-for-1, nobody was going to do that for 2 months of a rental player. knowing that the Southern California teams in particular are going to come at him with huge money when he hits free agency.
You know, Matt, not to be disrespectful at all, as you have kind of laid out what the Angels might say, but I'm just thinking to myself, what would, besides the good weather, and it is great down there, what would the pitch be to Shohei as far as the competitive aspect that everybody has said is very important to him? And with that, where does Mike Trout come into play? Is he somebody that the Angels could trust to speak to him as well? Because we're thinking for the Giants, what the pitch would be. What would the Angels' pitch be?
I think the pitch would be, you are the Lord and Master here, and he's been able to voice his opinion and get a lot of play as to his comfort level, right? I mean, it's not something that other teams can't necessarily replicate, but he is comfortable with the Angels. It's a smaller media presence team, and I don't mean that in a disrespectful way, than, say, the Yankees, for sure. I don't know that he wants anything to do with the 5 dozen writers that show up from publications you've never heard of that cover the Yankees that somehow make it credentialed and can make life pretty tough on a player that's underperforming. I mean, that might factor into the calculus for him. The brand association, he's comfortable, and he is a creature comfort guy. He doesn't really seek, he's not a guy that seeks out the big endorsement deals, with the exception of the New Balance contract that he's got. He's not dying to be on Instagram like a lot of players are. I think Southern California and the Angels, Orange County particularly, suits his personality. That would be the pitch. The Giants are going to come at him guns a-blazing, as they did with Carlos Correa, with Aaron Judge. And by the way, the Giants, who are playing better than anybody could have imagined on opening day, where would they be had they landed one of those big fish? How would that have changed the calculus of what they do? Would they have been better or not? I say not. I like what they've done. And sometimes overspending for that one big free agent doesn't put you there. Ask the Mets all about that.
Yeah, and we'll send this cut over to Farhan Zaidi, who has received a lot of criticism here locally, Matt, about not doing as much. It's Matt Vasgersian here from the MLB Network here on 95.7 The Game. Let's just talk about the Giants real quick in terms of their viability as a real threat in October. What do you think about this roster and their inaction at the deadline and what they could possibly do down the stretch here?
Well, I think, first of all, it's about getting in at this point. And, the landscape is littered with teams that we didn't think were positioned to make that run that ended up hoisting the Commissioner's Trophy. If you'll recall, as recently as 2019, the Washington Nationals bullpen through July was on pace to be the worst in modern baseball history. And that includes train wrecks like the 96 Tigers, the 04 Cubs. We could keep going with that. They were bad. They fixed their bullpen. Strasburg got red hot, and they won the World Series. Nobody thought the 2003 Marlins, as a wild card team, had a puncher's chance to defeat the Cubs in the NLCS, the famous Bartman game. I mean, they were going back to Wrigley Field, and the Cubs were lined up with Mark Pryor and Kerry Wood, and there's no chance the Cubs were going to lose those two games, and they did. And then the Marlins beat the Yankees in the World Series. Like, you get in and you're hot, and everything's different. The 2010 Giants, the Cody Ross-led 2010 Giants, at no point did somebody look at that team and say they are destined to get to the Fall Classic. But they got hot, and I don't think there's any reason why the Giants couldn't replicate that. I mean, the wild card field is pretty crazy in the National League, right? The Marlins have lost 17 out of 22, including 5 in a row. The Cubs are red hot. Right now, the Marlins and Reds are going to kill each other off because they're head-to-head. It's way too early to handicap any of this because there are 4 teams within 4 games of that final wild card spot in the National League. If the Giants just take care of their own business, they're going to get one of the 3 seats, and I think they'd be dangerous in the postseason.
Matt, conversely, you have the hot teams that are kind of punching above their weight. Who do you think is a little bit of fool's gold? Who's out there that's a good team, but you don't really buy that they'll be able to do anything when it's time for the MLB playoffs?
Well, that's a good question. The Rays got out of the gate so hot, and I really like them, and I like what they do, but they are waiting with bated breath to get medical news on Tyler Glasnow and Shane McClanahan, and if that doesn't go their way, I think they have some trouble ahead of them. The Yankees, the New York Yankees, with that bloated payroll, we watched the Yankees-Angels series last month, 3 games where the Yankees struck out in 40% of their plate appearances over a 3-day period. It was unbelievable. We did a game last week against the Rays on MLB Network. It was after the Sunday night game against the Orioles where they stunk, and then the Monday against the Rays, they struck out a bunch there too. They struck out 31 times in 2 days, which was a franchise futility record for the most strikeouts over a 2-game span. They have all kinds of holes. In the National League, I think there's just too much parity to say that somebody's fool's gold. I mean, we're all waiting for the Padres to play better baseball. And yesterday we had the Padres-Dodgers game on MLB Network, and they get a 5-0 lead. They whack Tony Gonsolin in the bottom half of inning number 3 or 4. The very next half inning, the Dodgers answer back with 8, and Seth Lugo's out of the game. So I don't know that the Padres are going to find their footing. We keep waiting for it to happen. Maybe they would fit that description. But the National League, there's so much parity there. It's just going to be a great, fun race down the stretch.
You mentioned the Yankees, and I hadn't seen that many strikeouts since I was trying to get a date to junior prom back in '85, Matt.
Ew.
Yeah, thank you.
I know what that one feels like, too.
Yeah, I'm here all week. Matt Vasgersian here on 95.7 The Game. The future of Shohei, and Allen and I were talking about this earlier in the show in terms of, can he really be a starting pitcher for the long term, or is he better suited maybe to be a hitter-closer?
Man, that people have suggested that, to use him as a closer. I don't know. He's a creature of habit, and that's I think that has to be part of the decision-making process for whoever lands him in free agency. He requires a 6-man rotation, and that doesn't work for everybody, right? I mean, there are pitchers on the Angels that had to make really big adjustments still early in their major league careers. A guy like Patrick Sandoval, Reed Detmers, who's a first-rounder. Those are guys that are used to pitching on 4 days rest. You add that additional day's rest to accommodate Ohtani, and you have to do that, and it changes things. I used to think kind of naively that he was a more valuable hitter than pitcher if I had to pick one. I think as amazing as he is offensively, I don't know that you can say that anymore. It's a coin flip. I mean, the year he won the MVP award, he had a WAR, wins over replacement rating, that was equal to Garrett Cole as a pitcher and Giancarlo Stanton as a hitter. I mean, how do you even monetize that in making a free agent offer? So I think he is going to do both for the foreseeable future, if not forever. It's important to him. I think, whoever buys him is going to land, again, a generational talent, possibly the best player in the history of the sport. I know that sounds firm, but I think that that's appropriate.
Just real quick, though, Matt, can his body withstand that sort of demand to do both?
I think if anybody's can, it's his. He's a freakish athlete. He takes care of himself. He eats right. He doesn't run around at night. He takes conditioning and physiology really seriously. He's a driveline devotee. He has his own protocol before a game where he spends a little bit of time on the field with weighted balls, doing some weird stuff that you might see on YouTube that only he understands. If anybody can pull that off, it's Shohei Ohtani.
Matt Vasgersian, Angels play-by-play, MLB Network, Pride of Camp Lindo. Thank you so much for joining us, Matt.
Good visiting with you guys. You bet.